I'm looking at level 2 of my building, and what I want to do is create some rooms. Architecture tab, room and area, and just before I start I want to show that volumes are not normally calculated because it uses resources, so the default is that only areas are being calculated, and the default is that it's measuring for the rooms to the wall finish rather than say to the wall center. I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. I'm going to start placing rooms. Rooms would be better named as activities. You can see from what's on the screen at the moment that it's going to change its shape when I move it inside the building. What it does is it recognizes what are called room bounding objects, things like walls, floors, ceilings, roofs, so that when you move within those objects it's able to find the boundary of the object itself. Let me place a room, and before I go any further, I placed it and it's placed the label. I'm going to change the label on here by slowly clicking on it. Let's call that room number 201, because what I want you to see is it will increment that number as I go to create the next room. So under architecture, room, I find the next one, 202, 203. Now watch what happens here is that because the bounding object is the curtain wall, even though the floor ends back here and there's a gap, it's finding the extents of what it thinks the room is. Now just one kind of, not a trick, but just the settings that I had here. If I say VG, you notice that for the view graphics, you notice that for the room I had turned on the reference lines. That's why the diagonals that you're seeing are staying displayed on the screen, because I've got them turned on. And the reason I had them turned on was I want to show you that you can create additional rooms, or think of them as activities, by defining a separation line, so you don't actually have to have a wall, it can just be a separation line. So this room separator, if I say pick lines, and what I'm doing is picking the edge of the floor and locking the line to that edge, and locking it to the edge there, is that you can see now that the crosshairs don't extend beyond the edge of the floor. Let me develop this a little bit further by slowly double clicking on the room name. So if I were to call this office, I'll create another one that I'm going to call, sorry, I double clicked and it opened the label. That's the family editor. Oops, I don't want to save that, so I'm going to say close and don't save the label. Slowly double click, so click, click again. I'll call this office. Let's call this conference. And then this is really not a room, but we're going to call it open office. So my last step here is that the view itself, that is the floor plan, has properties. Those properties include the fact that you can assign a color scheme to it. So where it says none at the moment, what I'm doing is telling it that using the rooms, so you can see a list here of the categories that are available for color schemes, I'm going to go by the room name. And what it does is it creates a unique color for each individual room that was created. I've got some redundancy in here, but I'm just going to say OK, and you see it apply the color coding to the the color scheme. Now you can, so I've got this for the rooms of the same name, I have the same color. For rooms with a unique name, each of them has a unique color. You can also, though, if I look at that, sorry, not view template, under the color scheme, you can also, for example, where it said open office, you can select the color that you want to use for the office itself. You see, so I can pick and define the color and apply that to override, any colors that were arbitrarily assigned. One last thing on here, just like a wall has families that are available for you to select, so do labels. So if I pick on the label that was for my room, there's other labels available, like the room tag with area, and so it's measuring the square footage of the room itself. Let me just drag that up a bit so you can see it. So if I wanted to replace all the tags, I can right click, say select all instances in the entire project, and replace the room tags that didn't show the area with the ones that do, so I can see the square footage. One other option here would be if I click on the label, you see that you can turn on the leader line. So with the leader line turned on, what I'm able to do is, if I zoom in a little bit so you can see this, I can pick the label, and I can use the little move symbol that's part of the label, and I can move the label out from the room itself. So you see that I can pick and drag this out. Oh, sorry, I didn't say move to room. I didn't turn on the label. So if I pick it and drag it out, you see that I can be specifying where it is itself. So picking the label, turning on the leader line, and dragging it out. It's going to let me move that outside of the confines of the room itself. One last thing to do in here with say the floor plan would be to actually create a legend to go with it. So showing the color scheme that I'm using on the floor. So under the annotate and color fill, what I can do is place that in my drawing to show the different rooms that make up the floor plan.